My name is Dr. Brian Carr, and I welcome you to this Lubbock Roundtable, where we have the opportunity to hopefully have an engaging discussion among ourselves and with you, the viewers, about issues of concern that we have. The goal here is to bring people together so that we can have an intimate conversation that will provide some insight by having sharing of observations, sharing of opinions, things that happened recently, things that happened a long time ago. So I'm pleased that you're going to be with us tonight to share in this, and that hopefully we will continue these in a series over the next few weeks. And so what I'd like to do is, being a good psychologist here, I've made my notes. So let me introduce some of our panel here tonight. We have Reverend Ted Dotz here to my left, and Ted, I've known him for many years. He has lived in Lubbock since 1949 and worked for many years in the Methodist Church, and through most of the, or many of the career moments, he was with the Covenant system, and before that the Methodist hospital system. He was a medical ethicist, you said, from 92 to 98, and that when people didn't know what that was, that you told them that you were the associate chaplain. Is that right? Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. And you did the associate chaplain, 99 to 2006, and then or during that time you were senior vice president of the Covenant system. And I asked Ted if there's anything else that he wanted people to know, and it was that you had 3 grandkids.
Right.
So that's always a pleasure to try to keep up with them. Do they keep you busy?
Yes, sir.
To my right, I have Isabelle Howe. Dr. Howe is from Southern Indiana. So we're glad to welcome her in today. She's, as you said, you have lived just kind of almost everywhere. So lots of different countries during the time that your husband was with the State Department, and yourself have 2 sons, and they check on you. I met them a time or two, so they're good fellows. She has a PhD in philosophy of the mind, and you got that from Texas Tech. You've lived in Lubbock for 25 years. Author of several books, or a few books as she said, and she's a very gracious host, and I think that we'll enjoy her observations about how things are in other parts of the globe. To her right is Robert L. Carr, MD, Dr. Carr, my father, who is a longtime Lubbock native, having moved here when he was 8 from East Texas. Went to school at Texas Tech, and then graduated, went on to medical school at UT Southwestern in Dallas, and then came back to Lubbock, where he opened the first clinic outside of the hospitals here in 1952, where along with 2 other pediatricians, they really pioneered a lot of what happened in Lubbock. So we're glad to have him with us today. Then to his right, I have Dr. Donald May. Dr. May is a retina surgeon with 20 years experience, taught for a number of years, has been in Lubbock, you said 20 years, so we're pleased to have you here tonight. He also made note of the fact that he is was former chair of the ophthalmology department at Texas Tech. Glad to have him here, and he currently serves for the Republican National Committee, or National Health Committee, and so certainly is up on many of the details going on, and so we're very glad to have you here, Dr. May. Thank you. Then we have Dr. Mark Scioli. I've known Mark many years, and he is an orthopedic surgeon here. Very distinguished career in medical school, and we could just go on and on, but both Mark and I, we know each other, and so I think that he will provide some excellent observations as we go through as a very contemporary surgeon dealing with a lot of the issues that we have. So these are our guests that we're glad that you're joining us tonight to hear this. So to start off tonight, I told our panel that what we want to do is we want to talk about understanding where we're at by where we've been. I think that we would all agree that healthcare has really changed over the years. And so I'll just kind of throw it out there. I don't know who might want to start with this, but any sense of early recollections of when you went to the doctor, or how often you went to the doctor, or how serious it had to be when you went to the doctor? Anybody kind of open it up and share their memories? Dad?
Well, I've probably been here as long as anyone on the panel, so let me just kind of begin. We moved out here in 1932 from East Texas, and of course at that time Lubbock was a very small town. It had about 20,000 people, and from that amount it has grown, of course, now to about 250,000 people. But when I came out here, I graduated from medical school in 1951, came to Lubbock after all the training that I'd done in addition to my medical school, which consisted of being specialty training at Denver and then back down to Dallas and then came here. And when I came here, Lubbock again was a very small town and had really about probably 45 or 50 doctors at the most. I know that at least they had only about 6 or 7 pediatricians in this town, and the closest town but with another pediatrician was Amarillo, about 110 miles from here. I went into practice with 2 other pediatricians, formed a clinic called Children's Clinic, and as soon as I got here, talking about the medicine and how it has changed, as soon as I got here, the older physician that I went in contact with got me to start volunteering in various clinics and around town. In fact, they had a children's clinic here, infant and children's clinic, where children were seen that had not enough money to pay for any of their work and so forth. So there were quite a cadre of doctors who volunteered at least a half a day a week that would come out and spend there in the clinic, anywhere from about 12:30 or 1 o'clock until 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whenever you finished. And so we had then a half a day covered, and it was covered therefore by a bunch of us together that served as a sort of a bunch that gave this medical care to the patients. That was something that I enjoyed doing. The other doctors seemed to enjoy doing. I never had any trouble if I had to get someone else to come in and take my place, or if another doctor had to drop out for a short time. I never had any trouble getting another doctor to volunteer, doing it without any pay whatsoever, take part of his time off, and he came out to the clinic. Now in our offices also, talking personally now, I can never recall a time that I did not give charity or not charge people that could not pay. I certainly gave discounts to other people, such as the preacher in our church, and to other doctors. There was no charge and so forth. But at least I saw enough of private patients who then had mostly either insurance or paid cash that I was able to make a good living.
Do you remember what your office fee was?
$3.
$3.
Yeah, $3, and a shot of penicillin, which was the main medicine we had at that time, was $1. So usually a person could get out of the office for $4 or $5 as far as a charge and so forth at that time. You saw usually about 30 patients a day, and then the thing also at that time is that we made house calls, and so by the time I got home, I would have at least 2 or 3 telephone calls waiting, and I usually would eat supper if I could, and then go out and make my house calls. And then I would get home probably usually about 8 or 9 o'clock, again, depending upon the number of calls you had to make. And then at 10 o'clock, I would turn over and look at the telephone and say, I hope nobody calls me tonight. But almost always they did. Either was a child had become more ill during the night, as children tend to do, or that they called about a child who was born at the hospital, a newborn baby, was having trouble breathing or something like that. And many's the night that I would spend all night at the hospital and not come home until early morning, and just in time to get ready to go to the office again.
So much more personable.
That's right.
Not really much in the way of other forces, other market forces involved. I think it was a relationship between you and your patient, and you and the patient's
And I
family.
made a good living. I really did. I don't regret at all having done all the charity work that I did, or you may not want to call it charity, but the work that I did for people who could not pay.
So we had free clinics. I mean, we talk now about the free clinics that we're having around the country, but in a sense we had those 50, 60 years ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Other comments? We have 2 Midwesterners here. What, as y'all were growing up, comments about what do you remember about health? Don?
Well, the first encounters were as a child with the local physician. And we were in a rural farming community, but the physicians were well trained, they were personable. And when you went into the physician's clinic, it was a one-on-one interaction with the physician, with the nurse. It was about health care. And then as I moved along and entered medical school in '68, that was 3 years after the onset of the Great Society. And we still had huge remnants of what medicine used to be like and what physician-patient